Call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum here. Let's all stand and pledge our allegiance. So with that, welcome back from the holidays. I hope everybody had a memorable and restful time and had some good quality time during our winter break. And obviously, everybody is back hard at work. And with that, we'll move to the superintendent's comments.
Thank you, sir. I, too, welcome everyone back. It's only been a day and a half, but we are back in the groove and we are pushing, so it is good to be back. Believe it or not, we're only halfway through the current school year. It's already time for many to think about the next school year. The application period for our magnet schools begins Thursday and runs through January 22nd. We have more than 40 magnet programs that offer unique educational opportunities to students while promoting diversity and reducing high concentrations of poverty. There are two opportunities this week for parents to explore magnet options and to ask questions. A mini fair for rising kindergarten parents will take place tomorrow from 9:30 to 11 at Farmington Woods Elementary School. And a question and answer session will be hosted here in Crossroads 1 on Thursday from 10 to noon. Parents can also visit wcpss.net/magnet to learn more. Also on Thursday, parents of rising kindergartners can begin pre-enrolling their children in their base school. We encourage parents to pre-enroll as soon as possible. This helps our schools plan effectively for next year. Visit wcpss.net/kindergarten to learn more about the pre-enrollment process. And lastly, most of our schools will be hosting open house tours starting this week. And these are perfect opportunities for parents to get a true feel for a school and to ask questions directly of students and teachers. Visit wcpss.net/open house for more information and a full tour schedule. World Cafe. Today I had the pleasure of attending the annual World Cafe event organized by our friends at WakeEd Partnership. A couple other board members may reference this also. This one-of-a-kind networking event connects our 51 global schools network and STEM schools with area businesses and organizations to create innovative projects and programs that support the themes at these schools. Each January, business leaders and educators come together for focused networking time to brainstorm potential projects for classroom and school-wide engagement in STEM and global studies. The projects that arise from these meetings enrich student learning for years to come. I want to especially recognize students, faculty, and staff at A.B. Combs Elementary for their winning presentation during today's Idea Crucible session. Now, I know one board member is going to reference the other schools now that I've highlighted one. Students successfully pitched their idea for building a fully functioning chicken coop on school grounds. Each grade will have specific duties in the construction and upkeep of the collaborative coop. Combs received a $3,000 grant to support the project. So congratulations to Combs and also to representatives from Brentwood Elementary, Conn Elementary, and Daniels Middle School for their fine presentations. These schools each received a $1,000 grant. Special thanks to WakeEd Partnership and Biogen and BASF for hosting today's events. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Merrill. I had a chance to spend time with family during the holidays, and it's always a good time to be reminded of why I think most of us are on this board, if not all of us are on this board. I got to hear from children, and they would cringe at me calling them children, my adult children, about the benefits that they had as a result of attending schools in Wake County and graduating and going on and having professional careers. And I got to spend time with them and their friends who now have kids of their own, and some of those are my grandkids, and heard their aspirations of what they want from schools for their kids as they grow up and as they're entering our elementary schools already. It was refreshing to hear the good information of their memories. It was a little frightening to hear their fears about where North Carolina will be situated for providing public education, a quality public education to all students as we progress through this century. They have a deep an abiding belief that Wake County is on the right track, and that if we can continue to be supported by our county commissioners, and if our state will pony up on their side of it, that we can maintain and increase the quality of our public schools for all of our students here. So I'm encouraged, I'm excited, a little bit fearful at times, but I'm very hopeful that we can continue to make progress with this. And as I've said before, I feel extremely lucky to live in Wake County, a place that values public education and is willing to put its money where its mouth is. I also want to thank our staff and staff members from the Department of Transportation and the town of Garner for working during the holidays. This was covered in our work session, but they worked very hard during the holidays to reach agreement so that we can continue with the movement to build an elementary school on Bryan Road in Garner, which also impacts the renovations for Van Dora Springs in Garner. So by all three sides coming together, and all three sides giving in a little bit, we've gotten to a point that that process can continue, where at one point it was fearful that it would be delayed, if not canceled at some point. So again, my hat's off and my deep appreciation to the staffs from our departments and from Garner and from DOT to make this happen. I encourage our parents to watch closely, and as our superintendent said, to take part and visit schools as we look at our magnet and application and transfer process. One of the things that Wake County has been proud of over the many, many years are the offerings that we have through our magnet schools and application schools to parents. Virtually every parent, or not virtually, every parent in our county has multiple options to look at for elementary, middle, and high school through these programs, and we hope you will take full advantage of that and make wise decisions and put in your applications as you see fit to do so. With that, we'll move to other comments. Ms. Felton?
I too enjoyed my stay with my family. 2 out of 3 children, 2 out of 3 grandchildren. Can't get better than that. But anyway, I too love working in this county. And I graduated from Wake County Public Schools, well, Raleigh City Schools. And I taught for 25 years, and my children all graduated. They are all gainfully employed, okay, which is a good thing for this mom. So it's just good to be back, and thank you very much for allowing me to serve.
Very briefly, I'll wish everybody a Happy New Year and hope everything gets off to a great start. I will note that had a lot of fun with my colleagues, Dr. Merrill and Bill Fletcher and Marvin Connolly, as we formed a barbershop quartet that sang with the Apex Friendship Girls Chorus. A lot of fun working with them, and always reaffirms the value that the arts have in developing critical thinking, problem solving, and really just a sound all-around education. So thanks for the fun.
It was a great holiday season. Happy New Year to all, and just looking forward to a great 2016. Thank you.
Happy New Year as well. And like Mr. Benton, I was off the grid, as Mr. Hill told us in December, and enjoyed time with my family, and got to spend a lot more time with my parent hat on as it relates to Wake County Public Schools rather than a school board member, because I have a 5th grader. So we spent much of our time talking about what she wanted in a middle school, what we wanted in a middle school, which I want to note that it's 2016 and she had far more choices and decisions in the conversation than I would have ever had as a 5th grader, although I did grow up in Thomasville and there was one option of the middle school. But nonetheless, it was great to be off the grid, and I'm happy to be back. And to Mr. Bitten's second point as well is extremely grateful that things worked out. The folks in Garner who I've worked with throughout my tenure on the school board have often held me accountable in ways that I absolutely appreciate as an elected official. And so this was a great place to see that we actually could find a meeting of the minds in the middle of the road to do what's right for all of our students in Wake County Public Schools. And so for that, I'm also grateful, and I felt like it was 'tis the season that we could end the holiday season on such a positive note. And welcome back to everyone. And to Dr. Merrill's point, it's not the second half of the school year, although it feels like that to me as a parent because I don't go to school every day. I'm like, it's January, it's the second half of the school year. And then I have the folks at home saying, no, it's not, because we don't have testing until next week after. So a reminder for all of our students is they are back in school and preparing for their testing. So hopefully today is the second day back that they're ready to get themselves ready for testing.
Mr. Hill?
Thank you. Just want to say Happy New Year to everyone. I was off the grid, so I did very little in terms of board responsibilities. It was exciting to see the first of what will probably be many snowfalls yesterday as winter really starts to take hold. So, and that's what happens when it thunders 8 days earlier. So, yeah. So, Happy New Year.
Just want to say I hope everyone enjoyed a restful holiday break, and Happy New Year to all. And I hope that's the only snow we see this year. Thank you.
Isn't it a truth?
I'll echo the Happy New Year comments. Also echo Dr. Martin's comments about the fun we had forming an ad hoc quartet to sing once. We may be invited to sing again, but we sang once. We had a good time, and I must say that brand new music program at Apex Friendship High School put on a great concert. The women, mixed group, a cappella groups, the band. I mean, it was a very enjoyable evening, well attended by the parents, and it was a lot of fun. Also, I'll just comment on the World Cafe event this morning that was pulled together by the folks at Wake Ed Partnership, and there were some 43 companies there who were seeking partnerships with our schools to provide opportunities for real-world practical application of what we're asking our children to learn. In some cases, it was interesting. I had a discussion with one of the school representatives from Broughton who we were talking about what they were looking for, and one of the factors they were hoping to do was develop a relationship to deal with preparing for interviews, and what do you do in that vein? How do you prepare yourself? How do you address? And it was very interesting. If you're going to dress for success, what does that mean nowadays? Does that mean that you're in a coat and tie or in a dress and as a lady, or are you dressed like a millennial with jeans and loafers and open collar and maybe a jacket, maybe not? And it was interesting that the site leader at Biogen, who presented information about his company, which I found to be very fascinating, was much more the millennial than the. So it's an interesting discussion, and we think about how we're helping our young people be prepared for the choices they want to make when they leave us. It's an important conversation to have. So I'm excited about the opportunity and the hard work that Wake Ed Partnership put in to match business interest with school interests. And I'm expecting great things to have come from today's activities. Thank you very much.
I'll echo that praise for World Cafe. It's the sort of work we need to do to collaborate with businesses throughout Wake County, and congratulations to Combs Elementary for bringing their students, gave an excellent presentation on their chicken coop. Also want to congratulate the three other finalists, which were Daniels and Middle School and Brentwood Elementary, which are in District 6, as well as Conn Elementary. So that's my plug for the half of the schools being in District 6. Also want to congratulate Sanderson High School. The food bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina gives our students an opportunity to give back to our community. And Sanderson, for the second year in a row, was the leader in top donating school to the food bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina. They donated 242,000 pounds of food, and that equates to 241,000 meals. And that was 15,000 more meals than they did last year. So really want to give the Spartans some congratulations. And since the year 2000, Sanderson has contributed more than $480,000 worth of food to the North Carolina Food Bank. Leesville High came in second, and Broughton was in third. And the food bank serves 34 counties in eastern and central North Carolina. About half of the children that live in those counties are food insecure, that they are eligible for free and reduced lunch. So the need in our region is great, and I was very pleased to see that of the 15 top schools, 10 were Wake County Public Schools. So I appreciate that our students took the holiday time to donate and give back to their communities.
Thank you, all of you. I'm just wondering, with all the social media, do we not have video of this singing performance somewhere? We were expecting. Okay, all right, good enough. We'll look for it. Next meeting. Either that, or we can have a live performance. So there we go. Okay. With that, you've had a chance to preview the agenda for tonight. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda?
Second.
Thank you. And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. I believe we have no one signed up for public comment. So without that, we'll move to the consent items on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent items?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the motion passes. With that, we have some items for our action agenda for tonight, primarily with policy items. So with that, Mr. Connolly.
Yeah.
That's a good nickname.
Well, I got an email earlier, Dr. Merrill and Dr. Martin and Mr. Fletcher, from Steve Harvey, and he said that we have received the Grammy, so those that saw the Miss Universe pageant, you know what I'm talking about.
And did you get a second email retracting that?
Retracting it, that's right. Chair Benton, board members, Dr. Merrill, we're before you tonight with a recommendation for a revision to Policy 6410, the Code of Student Conduct. Want to note that we're not bringing a revision to the entire policy, just the addition of some language related to restitution. So if I might draw your attention to page 1 of the policy in your packet, in the paragraph that says range of interventions, we would like to add the following language, which you will see with one revision based on consultation with council as well as the policy committee chair. The language that you see, if you will go to the end of that paragraph that says students who violate rules 2-8, 2-16, 3-7, and 3-9, that particular paragraph, at the end of the paragraph where it says the superintendent will develop procedures regarding the assessment and collection of restitution fees. At that point, we do want to make one revision based on advice from council and the policy committee chair. After restitution fees, the rest of the sentence will say fee waivers and/or alternative restorative consequences. Otherwise, draw your attention to page 3 under level 3. Level 3 rule violations of more severe nature and support long-term suspension. The new language is any threat made by a student that results in the evacuation of the school or response by law enforcement and/or district security personnel may result in a recommendation for long-term suspension. That's the new language. Otherwise, the policy remains the same. The intent of this policy is to pass on any bill that we should receive from the municipalities for response of fire or safety personnel, any bill that's given to the school system or one of our schools, that bill will be passed on to the student or his or her family, or other restorative consequences put in place. We entertain any questions you might have.
On behalf of the policy committee, I make a motion to approve this revision to the policy. First reading.
First reading.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye, and this is to just the revisions to the policy, not the policy yet.
Well, that motion, we can do it in two steps if you need to. My motion was, because really the language change that we're talking about is largely editorial.
Okay.
It was in our consultation, the language as previously written was somewhat ambiguous and not exactly clear what it was we were charging the superintendent to do. This revision of language is, I'd say, largely a technicality, so I wouldn't think it would need a separate motion. So I think this is just this is a motion to
To
Yeah,
approve the policy
approve the
with
policy.
the
With
revisions.
that change.
Okay, all right.
First
Okay.
reading.
And the second from Mr. Fletcher? Yes. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. Ms. Moore, Policy 4100.
Good evening, Chair Benton, Superintendent Merrill, board members. I'm bringing this evening for first reading Policy 4100, Admission to the Wake County Public School System. This is part of the Policy Migration Project as well. It replaces Policy 6011 and Policy 6201 that we currently have. It has been reviewed by SLT as well as the Board Policy Committee. And I'm bringing it to you tonight for approval on first reading. Prior to anything else, though, I do want to make one additional notation. We received from the School Boards Association attorney a revision to our revision, which is not any language but formatting. So when it comes for second reading, you will see it in the proper format.
Dr. Martin?
On behalf of the Policy Committee, again, seeing there was no substantial revisions to this policy, it was mainly migration and consolidation, I would like to make a motion that we approve this policy on first reading.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
And just by way of clarification, when the board's passing those motions, they're including with that replacing the other policy.
Right.
Wayside. That's understood, but just for purposes of the minutes from time to time, we should make that clear.
Ms. Moore, are you
Okay,
doing the
I'm
third
back.
one? Okay.
So, next one is Policy 4150, also part of the Policy Migration Policy project. This one is School Assignment and Transfers, first reading again. This policy will replace 6200 currently student assignment, 6202 school assignment plan, 6203 transfer of school assignment, and 6204 temporary membership capping. So we are consolidating a number of current policies into one. This has also been reviewed by SLT and the Policy Committee at 2 Policy Committee meetings, and final changes were considered as late as December 15th at the work session. So we are bringing this policy as well for first reading. And then again, prior to adopting this policy, there are 2 changes, or actually 3, that I'd like to talk about. The first one is formatting. This one will also need to be reformatted in the format that all the other policies are going into. And then on the 5th page of the policy, there is a place where we reference a policy that had an XXXX placeholder in it. And the number that will go in there is 4150. It's the exact same policy it's referencing itself. It's just a different place in the policy where somebody may want to cross-reference. This is a section on students with IEPs.
Now, mine's showing up as also the students with disabilities on page 4, paragraph E, also has an XXX.
That would be the reference.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry, I may have the new one. I may have the
Okay, it may,
It
okay,
may be on
different
the wrong
formatting
page.
dropped
Yeah,
it, okay.
It's probably because of the formatting. And then,
Just out of clarification, Kathy, should that just read these sections of this policy?
okay. That's fine. That would be fine. That's fine. You got that, Laura? Okay. And then it has also been requested that on that same page or section a little bit further down, just past the requests for transfer, there's a section on transportation. And just beneath that, it's been suggested that we add a new heading that's called Authority of the Office of Student Assignment, because that's what the next 2 paragraphs are about. And so, right, it's not about transportation.
Okay.
So those are the changes that you'll see in the next second reading.
Still technical corrections.
Correct.
Those are technical.
And to be clear, the board, it comes from policy committee, the board is free to make a few revisions from policy committee and at the table, and then to move forward with adopting. If there's substantial revisions, I think the board's preference has been to send it back to the policy committee.
Right.
Minor changes like this you can do from the table.
Dr. Martin?
Like to make a motion on behalf of the Policy Committee to approve this revised and condensed policy.
Second.
first reading.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Dr. Martin?
Yes, Chair Benton, I'd like to just, for the public, since student assignment is something that has a broad impact across the county, I'd like to highlight just a few points for clarification. There has not been any substantive change to the assignment priorities that were developed a couple years ago when this policy was put in place. So we still have the same 4 pillars. I would say the main changes that you see in this policy, which combines student assignment and the transfer policy, are a decision by the board to make sure that we really prioritize base assignments over transfers. As some will remember that we had that issue with when we were going to transfer some people from Heritage to Rollsville. We realized that we were worrying about the capacity of a school because of a large number of transfer students, and so we're going to reassign base to make room for transfers, and that just doesn't make sense. So this new policy prioritizes base over transfers, and if there is a need for reassignments, transfer students need to be considered in that situation. Another change that I think is important to highlight in Section 3 of this policy, it used to be that out-of-county employees had to request that their children would be able to attend a Wake County school. That has now been changed so that that is a benefit that is provided. So if you're an out-of-county employee, your children may go to the school where you teach or work, or an available school of the appropriate grade. So if you're teaching at the elementary school, your child can go to a middle or high school. So I think that's an important benefit that we provide to some teachers. In the transfer section, there has been some concern voiced to us. I'd like to highlight that we really haven't made major changes to any of the transfer issues. We have clarified the situation because we realized that we had many situations, many schools where we had a very large number of transfer students. And again, we want to make sure that choice is available where appropriate, but we can't just fill a school with transfer students, particularly at the expense of base students. So when we're looking at capacities, we need to really pay attention to our base assignments. A couple things we've tried to highlight in the transfers is to make it extremely clear that along with the transfer, there is the expectation that parents will provide transportation. We have gotten into a situation where we had a lot of transfer students were being provided transportation, and we just don't have the budget to afford that. So we want to make it very clear that if you request a transfer, which is completely appropriate, we just cannot guarantee or in any way provide transportation. I want to make it clear that there are no substantive changes to the early transfer process. That's transfer based on grandfathering conditions of the assignment plan, calendar issues, and so on. Those cases in the early transfer policy, there really has been no effective change that you will see here. We have in the later transfers, which are transfers that start in May-ish, we have tried to clarify language to make it very clear that we are limiting capacity. We're intending to take a longer-term view. In other words, not just look at the capacity of a school this year, but look down the road, because we don't want to approve quite a number of transfers that will only lead to an overcrowded school in the future. We will indicate those schools, but just because a school is not indicated that it does not have capacity for transfer, does not mean that it has capacity for transfer. So those, I think, are the highlights of what are substantive changes as we've consolidated these policies, trying to streamline the system so that we have, as we say, transfer or choice with a purpose. There's lots of choice through magnet programs and application schools. And in terms of transfer, we want to pay attention to hardships where necessary. There are provisions for that, but we don't want to have schools that are overloaded with transfer, because we need to make sure that we have efficient operation from our base assignment plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Ms. Kushner?
And I just want to underscore that one of the reasons we're making some of these changes is to have more capacity for the calendar options that parents have and should have. And so if a parent wants a traditional or a year-round calendar, that we should be mindful to have capacity in those schools for those parents, given that we prioritize that in our assignment policy. So those, I appreciate that Dr. Martin underscored those priorities of calendar continuity and siblings attending the same school are still high priorities in our policy.
Thank you. Additional comments, questions? And again, to reiterate that we provide multiple choices for parents through our magnet programs and application schools at elementary, middle, and high school. So we encourage parents to take advantage of this period that is coming up to visit these schools and learn about these schools and make the appropriate applications as they see fit. Is there a motion for this particular policy? Okay. And it's been seconded. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
With there being no further business, do I have a motion to move into closed session?
Motion to go into closed session to consider confidential personal information protected under GS 143-318.11A6 and 115C-319 to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege as provided in GS 143-318.11A3 and to establish or give instructions concerning the board's negotiating position related to a potential acquisition of real property as provided in GS 143-318.11A5.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll go into closed session.